Today is May 27th, 2020, and this will be on YouTube. This is the stevebraker garden using the grow bag grow system from Larry Hall, and the time is May 27th, 2020, and it's about let's see, it's about 2:45. No, it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at the garden. I'm going to show you around the garden quick, some flowers, then we're going to go in the garden. So we're going to go up here. You might see my shadow. Hopefully not. But the flowers that you see right here, I can't give you the name, but they're a beautiful yellow flower that's a perennial that comes up each year. And then on the side of this fenced-in garden, we've got some lilies, and these are yellow lilies that grow quite well. And this whole garden is fenced in so that the deer do not get in and destroy everything, because the deer would just eat everything right down to the ground. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get a closer look inside this garden. And this garden uses, I'll explain how this all works. This whole garden was the idea of Larry Hall, who is no longer with us. And this garden used to be all raised beds. And about 3 years ago, I dug out the beds down about maybe 4 inches and put in this 3 mil plastic. And then what I do is I've got a sand point over there, that little green little building next to my propane tank. And then I've got hoses that come up and they tie into a 1/4 inch plastic tubing that fills up this bed, and there's another bed next to this one that has about 2.5 inches of water in the bottom of the bed with that plastic. It's a 3 mil plastic. You cannot have any holes in that plastic. Now, to keep that water up at 2.5 inches, we've got this plastic tubing that goes to a float, and the float is right here, and that's what keeps the water at 2.5 inches. And this 1/4 inch hose goes in that plastic tubing. Now if we get a lot of rain, the overflow goes through this plastic tubing that, here's the overflow. And you'll see with my fingers right here that this water runs out. If it overflows, it runs out. So if we get a heavy rain, this does not flood the beds. And as you can see, I took out some junk that was by the overflow valve, and that water is coming out now. So, but it'll come out, even if you don't clean that out, it'll come out. So I'm going to go up and show you that this would be all my tomato plants. And in the bags I put in a mixture of a peat moss, cow manure, and then I put in about 3 hands full in a wheelbarrow. I put about 3 hands full of Epson Salts. I put in about 3 cups of long-lasting lime, and then I put in 1.5 cups of 10-10-10 fertilizer. I mix that all together, and in the fall I empty these bags out in between these rows so that they air out and get mixed up good. And so that when I fill this back in and re-put in the Epsom salts, the lime, and the fertilizer, mix it up good, re-put it back in the bags. It's a lot of work, but now what I did for the tomato plants, because these tomato plants, believe it or not, will grow twice as fast and 2 to 3 times as big as a regular tomato plant. I know you don't believe me, but I'm going to reshoot this video when they are up there and you can see. Right now they're about maybe not even a foot tall. They've grown in the last 2 weeks since we planted these tomato plants. They've grown quite a bit already. So these are 8 tomato plants in this bed. They're quite spaced out, but what I plan on doing is putting 4-foot cut in half 2x4s with a green plastic coating on some fencing that'll go across, that'll support the tomato plants. Because each year I have trouble with them falling over, tipping over with a high wind and breaking, and so we have a lot of damaged tomato plants. But that won't happen this year. So this bed is full of water, and so the water wicks up through that peat moss mixture of dirt, and so the plants get plenty of water. So you never ever have to water your plants. Like I said, they grow twice as fast, 3 times bigger, and you'll see. Now, this next divided bed here, that's also got the same amount of water in it, is all cucumber plants, except for the 2 tomato plants over there, and those are yellow tomato plants. Don't ask me why, but each year I gotta grow these darn yellow tomato plants, and they have less acid in them. They're nice tomato plants. So now on this side of the bed I've got all cucumber plants, and I've got, if you look over at the end of this raised bed, I've got some wire, the green coated wire things that go on these containers, and so that these plants have they'll crawl up. The cucumber plants will crawl up these fencing. That's what I do each year. It works great. I get lots of cucumbers out of this. And so this bedding is all cucumbers except for the 2 tomato plants. And then the only other thing I've got here that's growing different is at the very end. As you can see it, I've got a, let's see, that is a big pumpkin plant. Not miniature pumpkins, but large pumpkins. So I'll probably keep just maybe 2 or 3 or 4 big pumpkins out of that. So this is what this bed with 2.5 inches of water. You can see it's getting green already. Usually what happens, it'll get a thick algae growing on top of here. Both beds will when it starts warming up, and then eventually that algae will die. So what I plan on doing, one drawback on doing these beds is that this water is stagnant and the fungus is awful. So what I have to do is I have to spray everything in these water beds with a copper sulfate fungicide weekly so that no fungus will grow on them. So what I plan on doing is putting small styrofoam balls that will float on top of the water, and then putting a nylon screening on top of that so they don't blow out on a windy day. And that'll keep the fungus from coming up through to the plants. I'll still spray once a week the first year, see what happens. So that shows you this bed. The bed over here is all strawberries. I get a good crop of strawberries off here each year. So I'll show you this. And then what I plan on doing is going over to the next bed. And what I'm going to do here is point this over here so you don't see all my junk on the back of my garden here. And if I jump, it'll be because I'm going to step on a damn snake. But snakes like this stuff. Don't ask me why. They do. I haven't really seen much for them throughout last summer, and I only seen a couple this spring, but you only see them in the spring. Now these raised beds are just plain raised beds. There's no water connected to them except for when I water them manually. And so this all looks good. And here I've got 2 zucchini plants and lots of carrots in here. in this raised bed. My wife has some stuff in here, some radishes and different things growing here. And then in this raised bed I've got 4 rows of beets, and then I've got 3 rows of beans growing the other way, going across the bed. So I thought I'd put a few beans in, see what happens. And let's see here. Let's go over here. This little raised bed here, I've got kohlrabi growing. Actually, right here you can see the kohlrabi's growing. I've got 8 kohlrabi's in here. And down at this end I've got 2 muskmelon plants growing. And on this side I've got all Hubbard squash growing. And I started those in the house. They're a little stringy, but they're going to pick up and go. That's Hubbard squash. And then I've got a big open spot here that they can all climb around. And I'm going to till up this spot over here and just put some wildflowers in on this end down here. I do have a little John Deere tiller covered up so it doesn't get rained on in my little mixed gas container. And then you can see the little 1/4-inch tubing here that runs over to this little water bed over here. And you can see the little float there. And I've got let's see, broccoli. Okay, over here I've got 4 cauliflower plants, and I got 4 either cauliflower or broccoli. Then there's 4 cauliflower plants, and then the 2 plants here are on the edge of this bed is let's see, that's broccoli. So I got more room to put in more broccoli and cauliflower here. And this also, I got to get the small styrofoam beads in here too. So anyway, this is and then I got in this planter, which is also in the water, I've got some flowers coming out of that. So I thought I'll try it and see how that turns out this year. So that's the grow bag garden system that was invented by Larry Hall. I'm a good friend of Larry Hall, but Larry Hall has passed away I believe it was last fall. Last winter, I think. So anyway, just wanted to mention that. Larry has given me a lot of good advice and understanding of how this all works. So that's pretty much the whole system here. So I will show you again what this looks like after it's grown up. Probably in about another month and a half. So have a good day.